everyone, welcome to another monthly reads. So, as you may have guessed from a monthly reads I did a couple of months ago, I am a huge fan of musicals, and I thought, seeing as I was reviewing the books that I was reading, it would be interesting to read Trilby and Phantom of the Opera and do a comparison of the two. So, quick disclaimer, if you're not familiar with Trilby, it was written in 1894, and as such it expresses views and opinions of the time which aren't acceptable now. These include a lot of anti-Semitism and racism, so it may be uncomfortable for some people to read it, so please bear that in mind if you do decide to have a look at it yourself. So, what is Trilby? Well, it's about a young girl who can't sing at all, and she meets a bunch of English artists living in Paris and their friend who is a musician. And of course she falls in love with one of the English artists, but it all goes wrong. And then it picks up 5 years later, where she has become one of the greatest singers in the world because their musician friend has quietly taught her how to sing through hypnotism. This meant that it was quite a sensational novel at the time, and as well, Trilby, the main female character, it's a bit ambiguous in certain places as to what her career is. We know that she's a model and that she has posed nude, and there is sort of some suggestion that she may have been involved in prostitution as well. And of course this made it very sensational for Victorian readers, so much so that it got turned into a play, and of course that's where the hat comes from. It was designed for the character of Trilby, specifically for that play. It's a very typical turn of the century novel in the way it's written and the style. Although the author is a little bit irritating, they can be quite condescending and expect you to know things that you don't necessarily know, which does sort of get on your nerves a little bit after a while. Another difficulty with this novel and the style it's written in is the fact that there are large passages of French that are completely irrelevant to the actual plot. And so if you want to translate them, you can, but it's not really going to change your opinion of the story if you don't translate them. But it just detracts a little bit because you're sitting there thinking, what the hell are they saying, what are they talking about, and it really takes you out of the moment, so you stop being absorbed by it. The author does say that he's going to translate the French for you, which he does like once or twice and then gives up, and then you have these huge passages of French again, so that can be a little bit irritating. The story doesn't really focus on Trilby, it focuses on these 3 English artists and their friends and their life in Paris. So as a portrait of life in Bohemian Paris, it's actually quite an interesting read. But if you're reading it for the plot, then the plot sort of really plods along in the background. It's sort of an afterthought to the writer. In a lot of ways, he's trying to invoke the style of very long descriptive passages, but they aren't really that interesting because you just wanted to get back on with the plot, really. Or at least that's how I felt. It was very not focused on the plot at all. Another thing that the author does, which is quite irritating, is he assumes that you know things, and then he'll talk about something and be like, well, I don't really know about this, but you should look at this and that'll tell you how to read about it. But I'm not actually going to tell you what I'm referencing that you should go and look at. So yeah, just guess. Just have fun and guess. And I suppose that's just the style at the time. You know, it leaves more to the imagination and more for you to sort of make your own jumps to conclusions if you want to. But as I'm not reading it at the time, I don't jump to the same conclusions that he's assuming the reader will jump to. And again, that just takes you out of it. Overall, Trilby isn't a brilliant novel. It's not. The fact that the main thing that makes the villain a villain to the writer is, you know, their faith, and that just really detracts from it. There are a lot of reasons that he could describe that character as being a villain, but to not discuss those seems a little bit silly. It ends very abruptly. A lot of things are left unanswered, and he just goes back to talking about the English guys again. Like, I don't want to know about the English guys. I want to know about the main characters, the main plot. Tell me about that, because he really doesn't like telling you about that. So yeah, it's not one I would recommend unless you really love Phantom and you want to compare the two and have your own understanding of the comparison between the two. That's really the only reason this book has actually kind of survived. And again, like I said, because it's an interesting look at Bohemian life, if you read the long, boring passages that are nothing to do with the plot. Also, he likes the sound of his own voice. He comes across very much as liking the sound of his own voice, and it gets irritating after a while. So yeah, if you want to read a book written by somebody who sounds really irritating and likes to talk about stuff that isn't important when you kind of have important things to discuss, then yeah, Trilby is definitely the book for you. Okay, so when Phantom was originally published, a lot of people said that there was similarities between Trilby and Phantom, and Trilby is actually cited as being the inspiration for Phantom. So that's the main reason why I did this comparison. So on the surface level, the stories are similar. There's a young girl who learns to sing, there's a young love interest, and there's a guy that prevents the two of them from being together, who is the musical genius that teaches the girl to sing. So from that standpoint, yes, there are the similarities, but that's kind of where they stop. Unlike Trilby, who can't sing at all, Christine can sing. She is actually a singer. She just has lost the desire to become a great singer because of the loss of her father. And it's the appearance of the Phantom that sort of makes her passion for her art come back and her drive to become the greatest singer that she can return. The Phantom isn't a villain. He's an anti-hero. He's, misunderstood by the world, and he doesn't understand society the way people want him to. And he's trying to fit in, but he's also at the same time given up fitting in because it's just not going to happen because of his appearance. And Christine, unlike Trilby, they're both naive in a way, and they are both quite young, but Christine is pursuing a career that she understands, and Christine is fully aware that she loves Raoul, but she's torn between the two. It's not a difficult decision like with Trilby, where she's made the decision that no, she could never marry him. Christine's a little bit on the fence. So, what is Phantom about then? Well, it is about Christine, who is an opera singer. She is basically just a chorus girl, sort of understudy that plays small parts, until suddenly one day the diva is ill and she takes over, and there is a great triumph in the opera house as a new star is born, and that is Christine. And her childhood sweetheart is at the opera, and he sees her and he goes to visit her, where he hears her talking to a mysterious voice, and she tells him basically to go away. Oddly enough, I don't know you, I don't remember who you are, and he gets a little bit insulted, but then she agrees to meet with him a bit later in a graveyard, and he basically sees a ghost, and he sort of puts two and two together that this might be the same ghost that the opera company are talking about, and all the managers and that, because there are two new managers and they've been told about this ghost that appears. There's been a dead body found, and it's all very sort of upheaval at the beginning, and it sort of gets straight into the thick of the story, unlike Trilby. And of course, if you're not familiar with how the rest of the plot goes, Christine basically doesn't then sing again, and there's an argument ensues between the managers and the ghost through letters, and they're not paying him and he wants to be paid, they've given his box to people and he's not happy about that. And then of course Christine not singing, so basically he drops a chandelier on the audience, which is actually inspired by a true event. One of the counterweights from the chandelier did actually fall during a performance once, and that was one of the inspirations for the book. Christine and Raoul then basically meet up at a masquerade, and she agrees to play pretend to be engaged to him for a month while the Phantom is away working on his great work. But of course the Phantom knows what's going on, and he knows that she's sort of not being quite as true to him as she should be. And so of course, finally when she does perform again, he abducts her and takes her away to his lair, where he gives her the choice of either kill everybody in the opera house because he's put enough gunpowder under there to take out half of Paris, or marry him. And she has this difficult decision. Meanwhile, Raoul has found this man known as the Persian, who wanders around the opera, who knows the history of the Phantom, and so shows him the secret way into his lair. And they basically end up trapped in a torture chamber for like 3 or 4 chapters, while Christine is like screaming and terrified, and the Phantom is shouting and going crazy. And then basically they escape because Christine convinces him that she'll marry him and that she does love him in her own way. And then he comes to the realization that, oh, we'll never be together the way I want to be, and so I have to let her go. And the Phantom resolves to basically just sort of end his life, kind of, and basically they all disappear off into the sunset, and a small newspaper review is all that's left. My first big thing that I enjoyed about Phantom more than Trilby is that it sticks to the plot. It really is just straight through plot. There's no huge tangents or anything. Although I will note that the translation I'm reading and that I have for all the 3 copies of Phantom that I own, they're all the same translation, and they are all actually an abridged translation. I have not actually read the unabridged translation, but hopefully at some point I will get my hands on the unabridged one. It is quite recent, the unabridged translation. The abridged one was actually the original translation that was published in 1911. I have a 1912 reprint antique copy of the novel, and also the Barnes & Noble collectors, and then I just had a little cheap one I picked up as a kid to read because I wanted to know the story behind the musical so much. So yeah, so it doesn't go off on tangents from my perspective of reading the translation, but it does stick it doesn't seem like it would. The tangents that it does go off is describing the opera house and the different passages and tunnels and secret ways there are, and the mechanisms that the Phantom uses to create his tricks, but they're all very relevant to the plot descriptions. It's like he doesn't randomly start talking about the different places in the opera house for no reason. He talks about them when they're relevant. So he talks about the different rooms above the opera when Christine is taking Raoul around the opera, so it shows the world that they explore together in the month that they pretend to be engaged. And then of course there's a lot of description when Raoul descends underneath the opera house to go to the lake. And so again, the descriptiveness is relative to what is going on. It's not just like, hey, I decided to go on a tangent for like 4 pages to tell you about something completely irrelevant about this building over here. But no, that doesn't happen. Stylistically, it's written in a way as if it's a historian who has compiled all this evidence about what happened. He's trying to make you believe that what this book is about is actually real, that it actually happened. And he does that by weaving in these actual historical events, but altering them to suit his narrative. So just beware of that. It's actually quite a common style at the time for authors to do that, and I do actually find it quite fascinating, and when it's done really well it draws you in. Phantom isn't the best example of this, but it is quite a fun example of it because it's such a fast-paced plot, and it's also quite comical in the plot of the managers and getting to hear their own voice from the extracts of their so-called memoirs, which, you know, that adds this element of comedy to it. So yes, you would describe the novel as a gothic horror, but it does have these nice light moments in it, which are still quite suspenseful, really. Oddly enough, the Phantom, who is also called Eric, is never actually referred to as the Phantom of the Opera in the novel. He's always referred to as the opera ghost, or the angel of music, or Eric, or as a monster. And that's how they refer to him. There's never any mention of Phantom of the Opera, which is actually quite funny, seeing as that's what the novel's called. You'd think at some point they would have called him that in there, but no. There's a couple of places where the story sort of switches its focus from Christine and Raoul to the managers that seem a little bit odd, but as well, I have heard that that is partially due to the translation, that some translations, the chapters are in slightly different orders, so it may be that that's the case. So yeah, if you've read the unabridged version, then do let me know which order the chapters are, or whether they are the same order or whether they are in a different order. Overall, it's a really fun little novel to read. You know, it's not high art or great literature, but it is just a fun little story that sort of really draws you in, and you don't get taken out of the moment in it. Its original publisher in the UK was actually Mills and Boon, and if you're familiar with the type of books that they publish now, you kind of make sense of what they were publishing back then. So yeah, it is just a fun little book. Now, when it comes to the musical, there are so many characters that are actually missed out of the musical that are in the novel. For one, the Persian plays a huge part in the novel and is such a major character, yet sort of parts of his plot are just given to Madame Jury, and after you've read the novel, you can kind of see why they did that, but it still doesn't really make sense. Just have the Persian as a character, and that would be so much more fun to get to see him more, as he is cut out so much. There's a lot of like extra ballet dancers and that you don't see, because there's quite a few little girls. There's Meg and Jams, because I can't say her name, and Sorelli. And then as well, Raoul has an older brother who also sort of gets involved, you know, trying to tell his brother that he can't marry Christine and that, you know, he shouldn't be going after her and getting involved. And then of course there's Christine's guardian. You know, she's not alone in the world. Her father met this music professor and his wife, and they basically adopted Christine and supported them financially, and so she has a guardian that looks after her and, you know, that she lives with. So she doesn't actually live at the opera, she lives in this little flat. So yeah, I really enjoy Phantom, and I will always love Phantom. But in comparison to Trilby, you can understand why Phantom has this lasting endurance to it that Trilby doesn't. The themes of being an outcast in society for reasons beyond your control, but also are things that people find it very difficult to overcome, is something that you can still understand. I mean, to put it this way, it's not simply a burn on his face that the Phantom has. He literally was born without a nose, apparently, and that he looks like he has a skeleton head. And that's something quite terrifying, that, you know, even in today's modern society, we still shy away from physical deformities a lot. And that's something that I think we can associate with when we read this novel, unlike Trilby, where the character, there isn't really much of a reason why we dislike them, other than them seeming a bit dodgy, that the author doesn't really go into discussion about that at all, you know. You know, there's plenty of reasons why they could be a bad guy and you just pick their face. You know, it's not the hypnotising people without consent and being a general bully to everybody, you know, and intimidating them and shouting at them. You know, that's not a reason for you to dislike them. But no. So I hope you enjoyed this month's monthly read. It was a little bit different comparing these two novels and having a discussion about them. Let me know if you prefer this type of review, and maybe I'll do some more like this. So as always, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye!